He was like a deer caught in the headlights. I don't hear you. No, I can't hear a thing. And we just tested
Can you
it.
hear me?
Now I can. Yep, there we go.
Okay, it's the same exact problem I have. I gotta stop doing that countdown thing. Oh, picking back up in the background. I have no idea what's going on, but doesn't change the fact because we are here live right now with referee Ben Barnett. Ben, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it so much. Crappy day outside, but it's one of those days.
You got to make chicken salad, as they say. But yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, Matt. Pleasure.
And apologies for the technical difficulties. I really got to stop doing that. I tried it last time with the Beastmasters. I was like, you know what? I refreshed everything. Let's just make sure everything works. And well, that happened. So
hey, when you're working with live stuff, you gotta always expect that. Yeah. So that's fine.
And live entertainment business is always well, you know.
Yeah, I think we both do to a certain extent. Yeah.
So my first question is to you: how did you get into refereeing? Like, what really inspired you to become a professional wrestling referee?
Oh God, watching the product when I was a kid. My brother and I fell in love with it around, I was like 6 or 7, and he was probably around 10 or 11 when he started watching. So he got me into it, and then over the years, just was a fan, and kind of dropped off watching it from about 2010 to really only maybe 4 years ago. I started watching stuff on TV again, but always loved it. Always would rewatch old stuff and enjoy that nostalgia. But getting into refereeing was just during the pandemic. I left my corporate job as a salesman for a truck rental company, and then decided this isn't for me. I'm gonna pursue refereeing. And then actually Ace Austin was the guy who told me to go in the direction of the Monster Factory. He grew up near me. One of my buddies knew him, so that's how we got in contact. And he said, yeah, either the Wild Samoans or Monster Factory. So ended up at the Monster Factory.
Sweet. So speaking about the Monster Factory, what's it like training there? Because I've had Christian Rocco on the show, I've had David Adams on the show. They've all talked about the Monster Factory. What is it like for people who don't know what the Monster Factory is? What's it like training there?
Well, it's a higher standard place. Danny Cage is one of our coaches, our main coach, and then Missy Sampson, and they do a heck of a job trying to keep the camaraderie and the focus and the drive is always do better, always learn, keep your mind open and malleable. So training there, I honestly haven't trained there in a little bit. I'm helping them out with shows right now, but for the first year in the business, I was there, multiple times a month, and I trained with the wrestlers. It's grueling. I'm somewhat of an athlete, but all hats off to how those guys put their bodies through just training seminars every day. And yeah, it's intense, but worthwhile.
So you say that you're a little bit of an athlete. Have you ever thought about trading into pinstripes for elbow pads anytime soon?
No. When I was a kid, of course, it was everyone's dream to be the wrestler.
Oh yeah.
But I fell in love with refereeing because I saw it was like a hidden, sort of the hidden talent. The third man in the ring, who's really directing the traffic, who's translating these messages. And they were sort of like the unspoken word of the match. So I kind of fell in love with that, and the added longevity that comes with being a referee over a very short 5-year career as a wrestler in some cases, or getting injured. So I didn't want to deal with any injuries. I want to be a nice 60-year-old that has the ability to travel and live a life. So yeah, nothing against being a wrestler though. By God, no.
So for you becoming a referee, is there anybody you take like inspiration from? Like I know Earl Hebner, we talked a little bit before. Every referee says Earl. I don't want to give him too much credit because he watches this every now and then. I don't want to give him too much credit.
Don't get his head too big. Yeah. No, definitely Earl Hebner. Just because he was involved in so many classic moments that you can't discount Earl Hebner or his son Brian. I learned a lot from Brian and Brian's podcast with him and Jimmy Corderas. Jimmy Corderas was also one who's been, as long as I've been a wrestling fan, I've seen Earl, Timmy White, Jimmy Corderas, Mike Chioda, Jack Doan, and all their styles were interesting to me. How they all work and uniquely, do their shit is, I don't know if I can swear on this. We didn't talk about that, but to do their shit, I enjoyed very much from all aspects. So yeah, I'd say all those guys are pivotal, inspiring names in my journey to becoming a referee.
So now, has there ever been a match like that you've watched back in the day and said, "Man, I really wish I could have refereed that match," or is like,
Oh, so many, so many. But also, I don't want to screw anything up. Those guys. When you work with somebody, week after week, night after night, you learn what to read and where to be and all that stuff. It just kind of comes with it. But I wouldn't ever want to, really realistically, 2 years in the business, I'm green. Like I do okay, but I'm still green compared to a lot of people that have been in here. So I would never want to throw myself into a big match situation ill prepared. So I'd say let it up to those guys to have done it. I don't ever have like what if I want to create new moments, not relive old ones. So
very fair. Because when we had Earl on the show, Earl was probably one of our like first 2 or 3 guests way back in 2021. And I asked him the same question about how he got, wanted to be a referee, and he mentioned his brother was doing it. And he was telling us in the debut that he got thrown over the top rope by Hogan. Andre was supposed to catch him. Andre did not catch him, and he fell and almost broke his tailbone. Have you ever had any like injuries so far in your journey?
I've only bumped during matches a few times, and probably my most momentous one was for the factory. It was Goldie and Travis Jacobs in a one-on-one match it was the night Goldie won the MFPW heavyweight title. I was honored to be a part of it, and I was even more honored that they trusted me enough to take this bump. It was like a low drop kick from one corner into the other corner, and Travis moves out of the way and sort of pulls me in front, and I take the drop kick into the buckles, and it looks worse than it felt, but I still bit my tongue and I got a little whiplash on the corner turnbuckle, on the middle turnbuckle, I should say, and then rolled out of the ring and then, got the Iggy to go back in for the finish. I was fine. I had no blood. I didn't bite my tongue off or anything or chip a tooth. So we're good. Yeah. That was a fun one though. And not really anything else though that comes to mind.
Fair enough. Speaking of mentioning David Goldie, David, you know what you did. I'm still not happy with you. I seen what you did at the last show.
Oh, I got you. I got you. Yeah. Yeah, that was fun to watch.
Crazy stuff. All right, so talking about taking inspiration from referees. Outside of Earl, because again, we can't inflate his ego too much, who is your favorite referee?
Timmy White. I love Timmy White, the Fighting Irishman. He would get in there like the best of them. He wasn't afraid to make you believe that he was in charge. I like his cadences, his timing, his working with the guys. I every match pretty much from 2000 to 2004ish, which I guess was his last match. He kind of semi-officially retired in 2002 because of a shoulder injury. But yeah, watching him work with the likes of Jericho and Benoit and Guerrero, Malenko, all those guys, I absolutely loved. So yeah, Timmy White for sure, and man, Mike Chioda. Mike Chioda also made you believe you were watching a real something. He made everything dramatic and he was very loud and vocal, and I much appreciate that from him.
Yep, those two refereed 2 of my all-time favorite matches. Timmy White refereed this Hell in a Cell match with Undertaker and Mankind.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Chioda refereed the Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania. 2 of my all-time favorite matches. And I got to meet
I wouldn't want to have been in those matches. Mike had his hands full with the Rock and Hogan. I don't know how he wasn't. He was moving quite a bit in that match, yeah. And I'd have worried I'd blown up. But then poor Timmy White having to be involved in the last 15 minutes of that Hell in a Cell match, I would be so scared. So good on them.
Yep, I've met Timmy and I've met Mick, and I told them both the same thing. I was like, I don't know how either of you, like, I didn't get a chance to meet Undertaker yet, and I'll tell him the same thing when I get a chance to meet him. I don't know how you guys were able to, like, even form a coherent thought. The second you off that cage, all my brain power would have just off.
Oh, yeah, easily.
So
Easily.
big shout out to them. And I've told David, I've told Johnny Rankin when I had him on, referees are just as important to the match as the wrestlers, just as important as the ring announcers, just as important as the commentators, if not more
It's a
important, because
cohesive
you guys got
system.
to tell the bigger story.
Hmm.
So
Well, I'm still going to give it up to the wrestlers as far as being the vital talent, in the ring. My job is the way I see it is I'm there to help and facilitate their stories. So if I can be a part of that in any way, or not be a part of it, and totally let them be the foreground and what's seen and noted, then I'm just happy to be able to count 1, 2, 3 or call for the bell at the end of the match. So sharing the ring with some of the people that I've shared the ring with, pretty cool. Pretty cool.
So you've done that. You said you're 3 years, 2 years into this.
I mean, let's say lifelong in the business because of my interest in it, but 2 years professionally. Yeah.
Fair enough. Now, is there something that you've seen? You say you go back and watch the old stuff. Is there something you've seen back in the day that referees aren't necessarily doing anymore that you would like to see incorporated back?
I should have known you'd throw this question at me. I don't want to get my head torn off by modern referees. I have no. I mean, it's stylistic. It's flavors of ice cream, I guess. As long as they're able to make me suspend my disbelief and think that it's a real environment to work in. It's a legit fight. They're doing their jobs. A few, I think, I can't stand selling the moves. Like you might see me like move my head at a punch or like a big slam or something, but I'm not reacting as if I took that bump. People get slapped or chopped and they're holding their chest or they're like suspending. I don't know. They just look like they're taking away from what you're supposed to be looking at. That could just be me, and I'm looking for those things, but the casual wrestling fan might not even notice. So that's just me. Stylistically, it's always going to change, just like wrestling is always going to evolve and morph into different forms.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to call anybody out on what I think, because what I think doesn't matter. If they're on TV and they're doing their shtick, they're doing their shtick. So
very, very fair. That's probably the best way to end that one. Not getting anybody in trouble, not getting yourself in trouble. I like that.
I'm not getting unneeded heat on me. No way. Not happening.
So maybe not something you would like to see incorporated more, but do you have any like big pet peeves not named Tommy Vex?
Yeah. Tommy Vex gives me a run for my money. Him and Sean Carr at AXW, certainly. Ian Bush too. God, so many good heels. But and that's probably one of my favorites, is working with the heels. When I can give them a platform to, for the crowd to listen to them, and just hear this guy in a striped t-shirt try and tell him what to do. That's fun. I do enjoy that.
So no big pet peeves outside of Tommy?
No, I don't dislike most people that I work with. And you work better with people you like also. So I try and like something about a lot of people and everyone that I'm working with, and see what we can accentuate, what we can cover, what we can do all these. No, I've no pet peeves. I love you, Tommy. Don't listen to that. But I'm gonna yell at you.
So now you've got to referee for quite a lot of people in the short time that you've been doing this. Is there anybody, past, present, living, deceased, that you would love to officiate one of their matches because you know that they're going to give you a run for your money?
I mean, I would have loved to be in the ring with Kurt Angle. Absolutely, his matches are wild. Brian Hebner did a lot of his matches, when Angle was hot in WWE, when he was the champion. But yeah, I mean, there's countless names. I mean, how much time do you have? Because I could go through. Who wouldn't want to be in the ring with some of those people? But again, I don't want to screw anything up, so I'm sort of happy that that pressure's not on. It's easy to say something in hindsight, but yeah, actually, Kurt Angle's number one. Who I wanted, Jericho. God, I mean, maybe one day I can still work with him. He seems like he's never going to stop working. Let's see, what did I say? Jericho, Angle. Man, I mean, as much as everyone says something about Benoit and his last 72 hours on this earth, his career bell to bell was phenomenal. I'd love to share a ring with him. Just that intensity that he brought. So certainly Benoit. And as you can tell, I'm pulling people from a certain era of wrestling that I fell in love with growing up. So Stone Cold, Jericho, The Rock, some of those attitude and ruthless aggression era people. Absolutely.
Yeah, I truly believe that the Ruthless Aggression era was. I know I'm going to get heat for this. I truly believe that the Ruthless Aggression era was the best. Head and tails better than the Attitude Era. The wrestling, the stories, the athletes you had. You got Rey Mysterio, Edge, Kurt Angle, John Cena, Randy Orton, Shelton Benjamin, Brock Lesnar, all in the same show.
Yeah, it was a stacked roster. It was a stacked roster. I look at some of the cards from back in the day, and I'm like, oh my god, we saw all these names in one show. Like that's getting your money's worth right there for certain.
Oh yeah. 2000 to 2000, probably like 6 or 7 is like the prime time to be a professional wrestling fan. I know a lot of people say the Attitude Era was the big boom period, but
I would actually argue if now isn't the better time to be the wrestling fan.
especially
There's
with
so
the
much on TV. There's so much content.
yep,
There's you know oh my god. I mean, if you want to watch wrestling any night of the week, it's there. And then not to mention like the streaming services that offer. I think AEW has a deal with Max coming, and then WWE on Peacock. Impact, I think, has their own where they work with Fight TV for I don't know exactly how they run their pay-per-views, but yeah, MLW, OVW, you can pretty much access everything that you want, and that's pretty cool to me. That might make it the best way. Also, best for talent. More places to work, more places to get a payday. So
yeah.
I this era might be good. I don't know what it was like back then. I wasn't there, but watching it, certainly love the product. Now I think there's more opportunity.
Oh yeah, because I'd imagine back then the end goal, because all there was for the longest time was WWE. So I'd imagine the end goal was WWE, but now that may be the end goal. Probably for everybody wants to be on WrestleMania. Everybody wants to walk out in front of 80,000 people. But I truly believe that WWE isn't the end all be all anymore. There's so much out there. Like you said, Impact, MLW, AEW, even some of the
Yeah,
independents I've seen are putting on amazing shows every single night.
I see better and better production qualities coming from independents. And I never, growing up watching wrestling, sort of knew about independents, but never fully got into. But it's nice to see the evolution of those, come to a good audience grasp.
Yeah.
And they're able to attend and watch and see more. It used to just be you had your local, wrestling show and no streaming, no nothing. If you weren't there, you didn't see it, which was cool in and of itself. But now you have access to it everywhere. That's dope.
Because I remember the first time I watched independent wrestling, I was probably 4 or 5 years old,
Mhm.
and scrolling through TV one night, and I don't know about your area, but I have a thing here called Service Electric, and
Mhm.
they had like local syndicated TV and stuff. And 8 o'clock at night, I think it was every like Thursday or something, WXW would come on. And for those who don't know, that's World Extreme Wrestling, and that's run by, I believe at the time it was run by Alpha Senior. And now I believe it's run by. It actually still might be run by Alpha Senior. I'm actually not 100% sure on that, but I know now they run out
I
of
don't
Florida.
know either. Yeah, yeah, I know that the Wild Samoans training is Florida. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I never watched that one, and that's where I'm sort of ignorant in that regard. I feel sometimes bad when I meet these hot names from the independents, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I never saw your work, and I feel bad. But tell me about your move set. Tell me about like I'm sorry for being that ignorant person most of the time, but happy to learn who people are.
Oh yeah,
There's so much content. I mean, it's really hard to expect someone to know
yeah. And that's how I am with the Monster Factory. For the longest time, I didn't really know much about the Monster Factory. And now I've had like 4 of their guys on my show. And at the time, like there was a couple wrestlers like at AXW. They're like, yeah, I worked at Monster Factory. And I'm like, it's Monster Factory. I gotta check it out. So I finally check it out, and I'm like, I don't know
everyone.
how I didn't see this sooner. I think the show that really got me interested was the 2300 Arena show that they did.
Yeah, yeah,
Were
I
you
was
on
there
that
for
show?
that. Yeah, I
Okay.
was there for that. I did the main event. Oh my god, I watched that event back, and it was so the magnitude of it all. That was my first time performing in front of 1,300 people in a historic venue like the old ECW arena. So I was scared stiff. And if you watch me back in those matches, I'm not moving at all. I am so green, and I think I was 4 or 5 months in the business at that point.
Wow.
So I'd only ref, maybe 6 shows for the Monster Factory before this happened, and then it's the first night I'm working with an earpiece, and that kind of it was a lot of more it was a lot more production than I had anticipated. So yeah, I was stiff, but I love that show. That was a good one.
So you know firsthand what the vibe is like. For everybody else who may be watching this in a different state, somebody who hadn't had the opportunity to travel to the ECW arena, what is the vibe like in there? Because I've been there a couple times, and every single time it's like nothing I've ever felt before.
I mean, the crowd. You mean in terms of the crowd?
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, they were ready to see some wrestling. Philadelphia, of course, a huge wrestling area. So, yeah, I felt. I don't know if I, looking back on it, really paid as much attention to it as I should have, being in my head or worried about the next step and what to do when, and I don't know if I even listened as much as I should have. I might have tuned them out. But you can definitely feel, especially when you get a good hot false finish or something, and you come in for the count, and they're counting with you, and you can hear that eruption, and then that kick out right at the last second, and the audience just goes nuts. That's I remember one spot in the Fatal 4-Way main event that did that, and I was like, oh yeah, I felt present at that moment. But the whole rest of the night, you're kind of in your own mode when you're in a show, and I don't know if I was listening to it as much as I should
And you can attest to it. David Adams attested to it. Johnny Rankin has attested to it, and everybody I've ever talked to about that place attested to it. How hot is it in that building?
have. It was pretty hot. It was pretty hot. Although I don't know anything hotter than the Hamburg Fieldhouse.
That
Um,
is true. That is
that
very.
was disgustingly hot. It was oppressively hot. But it was also the middle of June, I believe that 2300 show was. Um, so I did they have AC? I couldn't tell. Yeah, I
I
don't
went
know.
there in January and it was 110 degrees inside.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's gross.
Yeah, a little bit. So now you got to referee in the historic Hamburg Fieldhouse, which is a hotbed for professional wrestling history. The 2300
A
arena
ton,
is a hotbed for
hotbed.
history. What other arenas would you like to, eventually down the line, would you like to referee in?
Ooh, well, I mean, I think anyone would say MSG, Madison Square Garden. Um, Honestly, anywhere, anywhere that's gonna have me, I'll be happy to put on a good show for. I'm not picky when it comes to that. I don't think that one, as soon as I get to say MSG, knock on wood that I do, but as soon as I get there, I don't know if I'll say, oh well, I've made it. That's it. Like I think it's always evolving, and I wanna work everywhere and work for a long time. So I don't know if there's one that's gonna. I don't know. I'd say MSG or the hmm, Georgia Dome. That's still a thing, right? Georgia Dome is still a thing.
Pretty sure it is, yeah.
It's not renamed or anything. I would have liked to work in the Mania 17. Was it the Houston Astrodome?
Oh yeah.
Just for the sheer
Lions-
scale of it all. Yeah,
Yeah.
but nothing. I will work everywhere. I'll work everywhere and anywhere.
So taking it from out of the venues to outside, uh, talk to me about the Hamburger Festival, because I believe you were the only referee that entire day.
I sure was. I Iron Manned it. It was a good day. I don't know exactly how many people were around watching us, but I knew that the crowd was coming in and out throughout the entire day. So we had a good amount of people that saw the AXW product. Um, yeah, the sun was in my eyes the whole day. We were in a little 16 by 16 ring, and I felt backed in a corner the entire time. But it was a good fun show. I guess we had to have that smaller ring for the street, because that's just how working with that kind of space allows. But yeah, it was a fun time. Refereeing the Hamburg eating competition, that was certainly a first. I didn't expect that to be in my line of duties until the guy running that portion of the show called me and was like, "Hey, do you mind refereeing this?" Sure, yeah, it's a first, so I'll gladly do it. It was a good time.
So that show was four sets of matches. I will right, four sets of matches, three sets of matches.
I believe it was four. I think we started at 11:30, did two or three matches, and then took a break, and then came back at one, and then three, and then five. So if my memory serves me correctly, it was only what, a month and a half ago. But yeah, I
At least
believe
you had
that's correct. At least I had a what?
a break in between,
Oh
because I
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was nice to have a break. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. I
Sorry to
just
have
got
to.
over being sick last week, so staying hydrated. But yeah,
Well, again, I appreciate you coming on here, and I'm glad. Hopefully, you're feeling better. Hopefully, I'm not making you do
I
this while you're
am.
sick.
No. I feel much better. It's just hoarse. That's all.
So, is there any matches that you look back on that you say, "Holy cow, I got to actually do that. I got to referee that." Has there been a favorite, or has there just been a moment where you were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe we just did that"?
A few that come to mind. Um, I mean, a lot of the matches that they put on, heck, even some of the Monster Factory mid card and pre-match stuff. I'm like, wow, these are some really good wrestlers. These guys can tell a good story. And AXW wise, I'd say, I mean, I just worked with Scotty Too Hottie at the last show, so that was pretty magnificent. And of course Tommy Vex was involved with that one, and I kicked his butt out of the arena because I caught you, Tommy. But yeah, I mean, working with Scotty, I've worked with a few big names, and now, of course, that you asked me, I'm gonna lapse on their names, and I don't want to waste airtime with just me thinking. But certainly, those come to mind. Anyone that's willing to step in the ring is, of course, utmost respect for me, and I'm going to try and make the best out of a match situation. So, yeah.
Did you? I don't remember. I honestly can't remember. Did you do the worm? Did Scotty make you do the worm or no?
No, I didn't do the worm. I hopped out of the ring and let him do his stuff. No, I did not do the ring.
Remember you
I did
tried
not do the worm. No. It would have been fun to take the worm. Would not have done it justice. I don't think I can even worm.
Fair enough. So, what was it like? Since we're talking about Scotty Tuhati, what was it like getting to be in there with Scotty? Because this is a guy who's competed on the biggest stage. He's been at WrestleMania. He won the tag team titles at WrestleMania, and now you get to referee one of his matches. What was that like going through your head when they told you you were refereeing that match?
Well, I actually sort of picked myself for that because AXW had me and Jared Fritz from NWA
Okay.
kind of go over the card and deferred to me, being their lead referee for AXW. That I was like, well, I kind of want to do the main event or the title match, I should say. And my first question to Jared was, did you ever work with Scotty? And he goes, no. And I was like, crap, because neither have I. And I thought if you'd already worked with him, I'd feel better about giving myself that match. But I did it anyway. And I was like, you know what, I'm doing it. If I'm going to only have this one opportunity to work with Scotty, then I'm going to take it. And working and calling the match with him and Ian, professional like no other. I mean, the thought and the overthinking and making sure that everything was properly set up to make everyone look as best as possible, and timing was crucial, and things like that. So truly a great mind for the business. Wish I could have talked to him a little more. I'd seen him around during the Legends Fan Fest, but I felt so out of place going up to people, and I just felt like every other mark, going up and, oh, I want to talk to you, Eric Bischoff. Oh, I want to talk to you, Kurt Angle. Oh, I'm like, I know that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
But I was just happy to see and be in the same building with them. And if it came to working with them, then that's when I'd have a conversation. But Scotty was great. Trying to think if I met anyone else that day that I got to work with. There was a few people, but Scotty stands out the most just because of me growing up in that era and watching it. Absolutely.
Very fair. So now here's my question to you. So if they presented you the opportunity to get into the ring, not wrestling wise, but to referee a match for somebody like who's like notorious for like beating up on referees, like Alpha Jr. Have you ever refereed an Alpha Jr. match?
No.
Lucky you.
I have not. That's why I still have all my teeth. No, I don't know. I've actually never seen him abuse referees, so I can't attest to that.
Fair enough. I don't know if it was considered abuse because so
well, you know what I mean. You're splitting hairs there.
His foot was like on the rope. Wait, what happened?
Go ahead.
His foot was on the rope or something. Referee counted 1, 2, 3, and he got a little angry. And when Samoans get mad, sometimes they take things the extra mile. And so he hits the guy with the Samoan drop, and I was like, oh, he's done. Goes out of the ring, grabs a chair, and I was like, oh, he's not done.
Oh, no.
picks the ref up, cracks him with the chair, and throws him out, and the whole crowd went nuts.
I'm sure he was safe with it also. I'm sure it still hurt like a you know what, but I'd take a chair shot from him. I don't see the issue. I'd do it. But I'm sorry, what was the question originally?
So now, if they gave you the opportunity to be in the ring with somebody like that and have a moment like that, what
yeah. I mean, I'm more than willing to bump, for people if it makes sense to do it. Bumping just for the sake of bumping, I'm not gonna, fall through a table or something if, I think time on TV or time served is better to telling a story that I don't need to necessarily take a bump for. But yeah, if it's necessary, I'll gladly do it.
Fair enough. All right, so we've just hit the 30-minute mark, and I am officially out of questions here.
That's okay.
Is there anything? But before we go, why don't you put yourself over where people can find your social medias, where they can find any of your matches that you refereed, anything.
So if you want to follow me, I'm most active on Instagram. That's at Ref Ben Barnett _94. If you type in Ref Ben Barnett, I'll pop up. Ben Heist, my shoot name, on Facebook, and then Twitter, I'm at Ref Ben Barnett. Threads, I'm at Ref Ben Barnett. So pretty much Ref Ben Barnett everywhere you'll find me. Most of my content again is on Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel, however, I have not yet uploaded much of anything. So that's in the works. But yeah, right now mainly Instagram and Facebook.
Alrighty. Now, before we do leave, is there any more? Like I said, you've been in the business for longer than some of the people that I've talked to before. Do you have any advice for anybody who's looking to come up as a referee?
As a referee, started a school. Monster Factory is a good one to learn all aspects of the business from. Wrestling, refereeing, tech, to sound, to working the door, to being concessions. I mean, everything that goes into the organization of a show, they take you through, setting up the ring, everything. So I would recommend that. Also going to plug the Apple TV show, Monster Factory. So watch that and support the guys that really do work their asses off every night to accomplish their dreams. So hats off to those guys. Hats off to Danny Cage for that, and giving me that platform. I didn't have to appear in any clip there, but I'm in a few, and I'll screen capture the corner and highlight myself or something like that just to get a picture out of it. But it was fun. So started a school. Watch and listen. That's the best thing you can do, is sort of be the fly on the wall and absorb as much as you can, adapt to your own style, and make it believable. You're the guy in charge. So don't take no crap from anyone, and then you'll be good. I can go into details about refereeing, but yeah, just start at a school, learn as much as you can, and get out there. Just get out there. If you're afraid to do something, then good, because then you're out of your comfort zone, and that's what's going to make you grow.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Well, there you have it. Ben, thank you so much for joining us for the Wrestling All Day podcast. I'm Matty Smackdown, and of course, we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace out. Thank you so much again, Ben. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Have a good one.
Yep, you too.